holding up illegals. Literally.
I think he could. I think he could have something.
He's saying there's a chance.
I'm sure the media would love to cover it as a story. That much I can certainly tell you.
I volunteer.
Sushi roll, huh? Might be on the menu tonight. All right, Carl, good to see you.
Word.
All right, why do white Democrats hate white people? Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. As the Trump administration returns the U.S. to a sovereign nation with borders, the games continue from his political opponents embracing American self-destruction. DHS, Homeland Security funding, is set to expire tonight as Democrats essentially demand we stop deporting millions of illegal aliens, including nearly 2 million with court-ordered removals from judges. Democrats say they'll only fund Homeland Security if they can also essentially neuter the ability of ICE to carry out these deportations. That's the demand. It's another part of their plan to crush the deportation mandate that was given to the president by voters in the last election. For the past several months, they have vilified law enforcement to the point of mass hysteria. We have watched it. Brainwashed Americans attacking ICE agents. 2 have been killed. In Kansas City this week, a woman attempted to burn down a building. Look at this video. White chick trying to burn down a building rumored to be a future ICE detention center. There was cameras, at least one camera, right across the street recording her doing this in broad daylight. So indoctrinated, this woman. She's now going to serve some pretty serious jail time, all for nothing. Look at that video. This is how deranged they have made people with the rhetoric on immigration in this country. It's something. Tom Homan has now pulled ICE agents off the streets in Minneapolis after he cut a deal, a coordination with the jail, so they don't need to be on the streets. They can just go to the jail, pick them up, get them out. That's what they need. In the wake of that, of course, soy boy Jacob Fry had to take some kind of a fake victory lap, acting like he won this war against immigration enforcement. Take a listen.
It begs the question, was it worth it? Was this operation that has inflicted so much damage on our city that we can indeed calculate in real dollars, was it worth it? Was the chaos worth it? Was the fear worth it? Certainly, this operation did not improve safety, and it indeed decimated trust.
It didn't improve safety. It didn't make the community any safer to do this. Completely averse to reality, they refuse it outright. They refuse to live in the real world that we live in pursuit of being virtuous. They just deny reality. ICE removed criminal gang members, murderers, drug traffickers, child molesters, rapists, arsonists, all off the streets of Minneapolis. The scroll goes on way too long for me to sit here and ad-lib. All living in Jacob Fry's sanctuary city. Democrats get away with destroying their cities through virtue chasing because even at the worst, the number of victims is still relatively small compared to the total population. In a democracy, you can destroy a lot of lives and still remain in power. That is one thing we've certainly learned. Despite the nonstop lunacy, even in blue Minnesota, though, only 42% of voters want ICE to be eliminated. They still want ICE to be a part of the arsenal of deporting illegal immigrants from this country by a pretty good margin. Meaning Jacob Fry and Tim Walz couldn't even convince all of their own voters that ICE is bad, let alone the moderates and so many Republicans that unfortunately still live in Minnesota. Americans want a sovereign nation, and the sensible ones are disgusted by what Democrats are doing to your country. Did you know that under Joe Biden, 8% of the entire nation of Nicaragua walked into our country? Information that's just popped up today that is just blowing people away, going super viral on X. 8% of Nicaragua came into your country in just 4 years of Joe Biden. 6% of Haiti, 7% of Cuba. These are nations with tens of millions of people. That's insane. Well, Nicaragua's 7 million, so not tens of millions, but millions of people. You're being replaced, and if you say anything, you get lambasted as a racist, like we watched with self-hating white Senator Chris Murphy attempting to do on a State Department appointee during a Senate confirmation this week. Watch this.
You have made several statements about your worry regarding the erasure of white culture in America. Tell me the values, the white values that you believed are being erased.
I think that anytime you have large degrees of mass immigration, you're going to have a change in culture, especially if they're coming from culturally dissimilar backgrounds. I am concerned with the majority common American culture that we had for some time that through particularly mass immigration, I think has become much more balkanized, and I think that weakens us. And again, I'm not running away from that comment. I'm not apologizing for it.
Well, I'm way over my time. I think you're struggling to answer this question, right? Because underlying your beliefs is a sentiment that white culture is just simply better.
What a pathetic little man Chris Murphy is. Connecticut. Ugh. How did you put up somebody like that? Such a beautiful state. How did you get somebody like Chris Murphy into power? Vile. He says that the guy on the stand there, who's at the confirmation hearing, is struggling, is the claim from Chris Murphy. He's struggling? I don't think he's struggling at all. Why doesn't Chris Murphy explain why he wants to flood our wealthy first world country with third world migrants? I've never heard anybody explain why they did this to us. They all just still say that the border was secure under Joe Biden and these are asylum seekers. No, it's not. You guys are doing this to us. We know you are. I would say Jeremy Carl, who was being interrogated right there, handled himself quite well and stuck to his guns, which you rarely see. Most of the time you just see people capitulate and apologize as if there's something wrong with wanting to have a country that has borders and have a culture that is maintainable and isn't decimated, and not bring in people from all sorts of different backgrounds that don't think the way we do, that don't want to live the way we do, that aren't capable of living the way we do. He made some great points. Here's more.
What do you mean when you say that you believe in the Great Replacement theory?
Senator, thank you for that question. This refers to the intentional demographic replacement of Europeans in Europe. It was invented by Renaud Camus, who was a French scholar.
You think there's an active effort to, quote unquote, replace Americans right now?
Senator, I think the Democratic Party, through its immigration policies, has certainly shown signs of that.
Signs, it's obvious, yes. And good on him for saying it and for having the guts to stick with it and not grovel and apologize like so many others would. It's obvious that this is happening. They don't try to hide it anymore. They don't try to hide it with their actions at all. They just do exactly what you'd expect them to do, and then they use semantics and they scream racism to try and shut you up. Biden had the playbook 11 years ago. Take a listen to this old soundbite.
An unrelenting stream of immigration, nonstop. Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority. Fewer than 50% of the people in America from then and on will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing. That's a source of our strength.
He doesn't believe that at all. He doesn't believe that at all. He doesn't. You listen to him back in the 1990s before he sold out, before the Democrat Party switched into whatever this vile thing is now that is ready to sell this country out for its own power and for its own agenda. The Democrat Party used to represent the country just in a different way than Republicans did. That's over now. They hate you. This is a whole new ballgame they've created, and Joe Biden just said, I'm on board. I'll just jump right on board with this and change all my policies, change everything I believe, because I didn't believe in anything. All I care about is getting more power. He wanted to be president, now he's president. Look at the things that he said back in the 90s. He's just an old white racist guy, has been his whole life. His son, too. Do you see the words that his son used in the laptop? You think he believes what he just said? Of course he doesn't. It's destroying your country because it's good for their party. And that's all they care about is their power. They don't care about your quality of life. They don't care about the culture of this country. They don't care about safety. They don't care about any of it. They're fine. They got their nice big house with their walls around it, and they're fine. It's their ticket to endless power. That's what this is. Flood the country with people who need government welfare, and they are the welfare party. These same people are now screaming fascism as we attempt to send migrants that they used as pawns back to where they came from, including 76-year-old Democrats who will do anything to your country to secure more power.
We need people working in the front lines and local law enforcement to protect our citizens from the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst are not the immigrants. The worst of the worst, records show, are native-born Americans, and they are committing crimes that hurt our citizens and our cities.
Scum. There's nothing inside that man. Just a shell of a politician that wants money and power. Doesn't care about anything else in the world. Kari Lake, Mercedes Schlapp join us now. Good to see you, ladies. Kari, your thoughts as we try to, as DHS potentially going to be shut down tonight because of this little game that Democrats want to play on immigration.
It's just so sad. It's so sad for our country because it actually is going to hurt Democrats as well. I mean, we need these services up and running. This is one of the most important agencies we have in the federal government. And it's sad to see. I'm angry, but I'm just saddened that these people we just watched care more about people here illegally and seem to despise the American people, the American citizen. And they were always siding with the wrong side. And so I'm hoping this is a short shutdown, but I don't know. I don't have much faith in some of these members of Congress. I just don't.
Mercedes, go ahead.
Well, I got to tell you, when you're looking at the fact that the Democrats are trying to target ICE, yet it's not ICE that's going to be impacted by the shutdown, but, you know, TSA, FEMA, Coast Guard, for example, it just shows how the Democrats, their strategy continues to fail time and time again when it comes to these to this potential shutdown.
Yeah, but Mercy,
they don't care about safety and security of the American people.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that. I want to get to the SAVE Act here really quick. Mercy, Trump posting on Truth Social, he did a lot today, saying the only reason Democrats are refusing the SAVE Act, which is, you know what, you got to have citizenship requirement, you got to have voter ID, is because they want to cheat. He says, I have searched the depths of legal arguments not yet articulated or vetted on this subject. He'll be presenting an irrefutable one in the very near future. There will be voter ID for the midterms, whether approved by Congress or not. Now, we say that, and I think we lost Mercy, but Kari, we'll stick with you. Susan Collins is now a yes on the SAVE Act, and I think Mercy's back now. Thune, I think, needs to make this happen, ladies, because if you have Collins on board, you're now at 51 with J.D. Vance. You got to do whatever he's got to do to the filibuster, Mercy, and push this thing through. This is the moment.
That's right.
I don't know if we're going to let they're going to go with this opportunity to try to just get to they got to get to the 60 votes. I mean, that's where we are. But here's the reality of this. Okay, Rob, we know that the vast majority of Americans, Republicans and Democrats alike, believe that it is important for there to be voter ID requirements. So this is a very popular issue on both sides. So for my understanding, I think as you're starting to see more of these Republicans, even these squishy Republicans like a Senator Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, come on board, and you've got Fetterman joining this, I think that there's a potential way of maybe getting to the 60. It's going to be tough.
The way they whip the Democrat Party, I don't think they'll ever do it. You don't think Thune will just say, "All right, fine, we'll do the talking filibuster," and you don't think he's going to do it? If Trump really steps on his neck.
Let's see what happens. I think what you find with the senators is that they're not necessarily the boldest of types when it comes to this, especially in terms of leadership.
But I think we need to give credit where credit is due. I had a really nice conversation with Senator Susan Collins today. And when I saw that she later has agreed to give support to this, we've got to give credit where credit is due, and we need every single senator we can get on our side, and maybe a few Democrats will look into their heart later today, look in the mirror,
if
and
they
say,
have a heart, Barry. If they have a
I gotta get to one more thing before I let you go. It's kind of on the same subject, Kari. Kristi Noem, Arizona, promoting the SAVE Act. In a state, that very well, in a state that we have a lot of questions still to this day. A lot of people wonder about what happened in 2020. How did Arizona, how did Georgia We saw what we just saw with Fulton County, 300,000 ballots that weren't approved by poll workers. Your thoughts on her being in Arizona today?
I thank her. I thank her deeply for that. But I have to admit, before her press conference, I loved watching the former election officials, the corrupt people involved in our disgusting elections in Arizona, squirming and twisting and worrying. I know that the rats are running in Maricopa County and in Arizona, and there's a lot of rats. I hope next time she comes to Arizona, she brings law enforcement and a ton of handcuffs, boxes full of handcuffs, because there's real criminality happening in that state surrounding elections. And I know that President Trump will get to the bottom of it, and he will secure our elections.
Very interesting. You know, it's especially that Fulton County admission was really something, you know, all these years later. So you're curious to see what happens in Maricopa in the state of Arizona. Ladies, good to see you both. Have a good weekend. Kari Lake, Mercedes Schlapp, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Right back at you.
Good to see you guys. All right. Vindication for Richard Nixon as documents hidden from the American people for more than 50 years verify the existence of a deep state in this country which was spying on Nixon's White House. We have a very intriguing tale coming up with ex-Nixon staffer Roger Stone.
Will you be able to afford your golden years? Do you worry how you'll make ends meet? You may be leaving up to $100,000 unclaimed. You need this special report. How to boost your Social Security and retirement by at least $100,000 or more. Get your free copy today. You've earned the benefits. Take advantage now. See our special offer to claim your free report. Call or go online today.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
One of my favorite supplements is Cunol Turmeric. Turmeric helps with healthy joints and inflammation support, and Cunol has the #1 doctor recommended form of turmeric. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Ready for relief? I just want relief. I needed relief.
You just want relief. Like you just want it to go away.
You need the Signal Relief Patch.
We all hurt, whether it's our neck, back, knees, or shoulders. Pain keeps you from doing the things that matter most. In a recent study, 85% of people felt relief.
As a surgeon, I put it on, and I can't explain why it works. I can just tell you, it does work.
Some people think this is just in my head, but I know that it works. It's working.
The Signal Relief Patch for me offered up independence.
The Signal Relief Patch for me actually means pain relief.
With a Signal Patch, I've been able to sleep, walk, and work.
Relief. That's what the Signal Patch gave me.
It was phenomenal. Why aren't more people trying this?
Join the thousands who have experienced relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Get your patch today.
Doctor's Preferred Liver Defense is doctor-developed to support your natural detox function with clinically validated, triple-tested key ingredients to energize and renew your liver. Find Liver Defense in the supplement aisle at Walmart. Doctor's Preferred. Better science, better results.
Do you think there was or could have been a CIA conspiracy to remove you from office?
I don't know. I know many people think so. I've found it difficult to understand why the CIA, which apparently had advanced knowledge of the break-in, didn't inform me. How it could have been that at least 2 of those involved had CIA connections. I must say, too, the CIA had motive.
So very early in childhood in this country, we're all conditioned to believe that Richard Nixon was a terrible president, right? Resigning from office after the 1972 Watergate scandal when 5 men were arrested for breaking into the DNC headquarters at the Watergate Hotel in D.C. Nixon was actually a brilliant and effective president. Resigning, though, in disgrace 2 years after winning re-election, conservatives recognize he was likely one of the best presidents this country had ever had. Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon, and then the former president was placed under oath and interviewed by 8 members of the Watergate Special Prosecution Force. Our own James Rosen has a new op-ed in the New York Times that extensively details 7 pages of that transcript that had been hidden from all of us for more than 50 years from that interview that have all now been revealed. The story verifies the existence of a deep state, even back then in the 1970s, which operated above the will of the American people, not beholden to their vote, working against Richard Nixon. These 7 pages reveal the Joint Chiefs of Staff was spying on the Nixon White House via a mole named Radford placed at the National Security Council, and Nixon's desire to ending the Vietnam War, which was not popular at all within that deep state. Rosen writes on the similarities between Nixon and Trump. Both men at once craving and scorning the approval of the elites, remained resentful of the establishment that they came to lead. The similarities between a president from more than 50 years ago and the one we have right now. The deep state hated Richard Nixon. We all know they hate Donald Trump. You start to now question everything, even the real truth behind the break-in at the Watergate Hotel that ended Nixon's presidency. Who better to talk about this than our friend Roger Stone, who was the youngest staff member in Nixon's 1972 re-election campaign. He was then known as Nixon's man in Washington for years after Nixon left office. Roger has a pretty big tattoo of President Nixon's face right in the middle of his back. Did you know that? Roger Stone, also a longtime advisor to President Trump, joins us now. And sir, it's good to have you here. Incredible new information in those 7 pages. To those of us that aren't experts on this like you are, can you explain what's revealed here?
Well, this is actually the second time James Rosen pointed out breaking news. Roughly 18 months ago, perhaps a little longer, newly declassified documents proved without any question that the CIA knew in advance about the break-in at the Watergate Hotel. In fact, of the 8 burglars, 4 of them were still actively on the payroll of the CIA and reporting to their handlers. James McCord, who ran the operation, was a veteran CIA man, as was, of course, E. Howard Hunt. Now, Senator Howard Baker, the Republican on the Senate Watergate Committee, knew of the CIA involvement, but he was not even allowed to mount it in the minority report. Fred Thompson, later a senator, then counsel to the committee, later a senator from Tennessee, he also knew of the CIA's involvement. But Senator Sam Ervin would never allow it to be in the Senate documents. And then the Watergate special prosecutor, Nick Ackerman, was briefed about the CIA's involvement. Yeah. He, too, did nothing. So, and now we find, once again, the same people spying against the president. Their opposition to Nixon was simple. They didn't want to end the war in Vietnam. They didn't want a strategic arms limitation agreement with the Soviets. They didn't want any opening to China, even though at that time, China was a dirt poor, agrarian, unmilitarized, backwards society where few people had running water or electricity.
Do you think that they killed JFK and then got Nixon tossed out of office for the same reason? Do you think that is that your theory?
That is very much my theory. If you look at Nixon's own diaries and those of his aides, as soon as Nixon became president, he began demanding that the CIA hand over all the files on the Kennedy assassination. And Richard Helms, the CIA director, just flatly refused. Yeah. There's a tape in which he has a shouting match with the director of the CIA, and he says, "Look, I know who shot John. It's Tucker talked about it. I published a Substack piece on it. It's one of the Nixon tapes they never play."
Who is the person?
Who is the person in what sense?
Well, who do you? I guess I understand that you were once told by Nixon that he knows who killed JFK. Let's start there.
Put it that way. So I think basically they took Nixon down for the same reason they took Kennedy down, and that was because they were for peace. I had one conversation with Nixon over drinks when I said to him, "Who really killed Kennedy?" And he said, "Well, let me put it this way. Lyndon and I both wanted to be president, but I wouldn't kill for it," which is the thesis of my theory, which is he is the driving force that involves the CIA, the mob, big banks, a number of other entities, Big Texas Oil, certainly, in the murder of JFK. He has motive, means, and an opportunity. But I don't allege that he did it alone. He does it because he's the head of the deep state. As the chairman, as the Senate majority leader, he takes the rare step of appointing himself to the subcommittee on appropriations for defense, where he quadruples the CIA's secret budget, and he doubles the budget of his next door neighbor, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. Lyndon Johnson was the ultimate power operator.
This is fascinating stuff that's come out. Does this revelation change anything? My final question, and what's your advice to Donald Trump as he continues to deal with this same deep state decades later?
I think they spied on Trump for the same reason they spied on Nixon. I mean, in this case, the Joint Chiefs of Staff had a man inside the White House in the military office, a liaison office, snapshotting files, going through burn bags, going through briefcases, any kind of information, through two admirals all the way to the head of the Joint Chiefs. That is highly illegal. Some could argue treasonous. In the case of Nixon, as I said, it's because of his efforts towards détente and peace rather than war. It's the same reason they oppose Trump. Trump is not for endless foreign war. Trump uses American power sparingly but very surgically, as he did in Iran, taking out their nuclear weapons, as he did in Venezuela. No long, prolonged boots on the ground, no thousands of American casualties, no billions of dollars for defense contractors.
Right.
This is why they hate him.
I really only have 10 seconds, but I just want to get an answer from you on this. Why is the deep state, why is the CIA so invested in keeping us in wars? What is the benefit in their opinion?
Because war is extraordinarily profitable. Because the defense contractors make millions and then they give grants to the think tanks. You see how this works?
That's so hideous. That's the worst answer, and it probably means it's the true one too. Roger Stone, thanks for breaking it all down for us. Incredible stuff. Thank you.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
Good to see you. All right, the president made an incredible move this week, gutting the foundation for the Green New Scam, the science that gave our politicians the ability to overregulate this country to hell. The end of the endangerment finding. Up next.
Big media will never stop their antics, their bias, their ugly insinuations, their nasty attacks. Well, they may never stop, but I will never stop exposing them.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
I am sure you're aware foods contain no more than 10 to 12 minerals. This is because of topsoil mineral depletion. Your body needs many more than 12 minerals to be healthy. How can you get them? I recommend Immuno 150. This incredible nutritional supplement is different. It doesn't contain metallic minerals like most vitamin and mineral supplements. Immuno 150 contains 70 easily digested plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There is nothing like it. The 70 plant minerals are the key to its effectiveness, its popularity, and its high reorder rate. If you want a food supplement that produces outstanding results and really makes a difference, try Immuno 150. Look at the 3 videos on the Immuno 150 website and consider placing an order. Thank you.
Think of all the places that could expose you to identity theft. If something happens, LifeLock provides a U.S.-based restoration specialist to fix it start to finish, guaranteed or your money back. Don't face identity theft alone. Join LifeLock today.
The existential threat of climate change.
Existential threat.
Under the process just completed by the EPA, we are officially terminating the so-called endangerment finding, a disastrous Obama-era policy that severely damaged the American auto industry and massively drove up prices for American consumers.
So the president and the head of the EPA made a big move this week, cutting the climate change scam right off at the knees, terminating the 2009 Obama-era endangerment finding, which classified carbon dioxide and 5 other greenhouse gases as a dangerous threat to public health. Even though fossil fuels have brought so much prosperity and better health and life expectancy to the whole world, they classify it as a threat to public health. The endangerment finding gave our government the authority to overregulate everything, from cars to trucks to power plants. The finding is at the core of the left's green scam, siphoning off so much of our wealth, handing it to their buddies in green energy. That money then gets funneled back to their political party, to their election officers. You see how this works. Trump calls it the greatest political scam ever. He's probably right about that. It has led to endless regulations, red tape, the financial strangulation of the country. This move by Trump is one of the largest deregulatory actions in United States history, saving companies more than $1 trillion, they say. Of course, Obama hates it, saying we'll be less safe, less healthy, and less able to fight climate change. You can see the rest of it there at the bottom. All right, Alex Epstein is the author of Fossil Future and founder of the Center for Industrial Progress, and he joins us now. Alex, good to see you. Your thoughts on the move they made this week? Let's start there.
I think it's really good. It's one part of a process, so it doesn't solve everything. But what they did is unequivocally good in terms of challenging the endangerment finding. It's specifically for mobile sources, so it's for vehicles. The problem of power plants hasn't yet been fixed, which is the most urgent problem.
How do they get to that part? How do they do that?
Well, they have to do separate. They have to deal with that separately, because the way the endangerment finding worked is it was originally for mobile sources, and then it was sort of applied to other things, but they used other bad methodology. Basically, the Supreme Court in late 2000s opened the door for this by saying the EPA had to take a position on it. So there's a series of things that needs to happen, but this is a very important step in that process.
Very important step in that process. Time magazine says it's the end of climate regulation as we know it. They say it like it's a bad thing.
So, they think it's a bad thing. I don't think we're nearly close enough to the end. So we need to deal with stationary sources. And also keep in mind, this is all at the administrative level. So this is something that can be shifted by a future administration.
Yeah.
Ideally, we would want Congress to do as much of this as possible, which is a heavy lift, but that's extremely desirable. And then at the state level, we have all sorts of what are called renewable portfolio standards, net zero targets. So the states are ruining this as well. And then we have lots of just terrible regulations still in place that are passed by Congress, or the previous administration hasn't been undone. So we need to do a lot more to undo this.
You know, I've heard you talk about this so many times, you know, and you always point out that it's fossil fuels that have brought this world to the to the level that it's at. And you talk about the millions of people that have been lifted out of poverty and the millions and maybe even billions of people that can eat and can heat their homes and survive on this planet because of fossil fuels.
Yeah, all of those things are right, but also people have become far safer from climate disaster. So that's the irony, is that the fossil fuels that have made us so resilient to the point that even though the temperature's gone up a degree, which has positives and negatives itself, we're something like 50 times safer from climate disasters than we used to be. And the whole endangerment finding and the whole EPA apparatus, which unfortunately the Clean Air Act has a lot of flaws that encourage this, it encourages fossil fuel benefit denial. And we need the whole political structure to start considering the full benefits of fossil fuels and to be even-handed and precise about the side effects, both positive and negative, instead of acting like the negative side effects are the end of the world. And there are no positives, even though the positives are enormous.
I always say it'd be very funny to just say, you know what, give the left what they want for a week. Let's take away all usage of fossil fuels and see how
we
fast
have that
they'd
in
be.
the impoverished world.
Yeah, see how fast they'd be screaming, begging for coal and for every other kind of fuel you can imagine. Alex Epstein, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Likewise, thank you.
All right. Trump deploys a second aircraft toward the Middle East. Aircraft carrier, I should say. That's next.
If you don't change that, I'm going to Mrs. Reagan and I'm resigning.
The Reagans, the Bushes, and the Clintons. White House usher Chris Emery saw it all. Discover the secret lives of the first families. Watch White House Usher, the inside story.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Lincoln and Jackson by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is acting like it's Ben Franklin Day, charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G service. What's up with that? Benjamin Franklin wasn't even a president. Stop paying Big Wireless big money for the same service and hang on to your Benjamins by switching to an American wireless company that is truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
I'm Arthur Lee, inventor and CEO of LifeVac, but most importantly, I'm a dad first.
Over 10 years ago, I watched my dad design and build the first LifeVac in our garage. Now, that device has saved thousands of lives.
The LifeVac saved my life in 1-2 seconds.
It's a device that saved my son's life.
A choking accident can happen anywhere. Order your LifeVac now.
Don't wait another minute. A life might depend on it. Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
Just in time for our country's big celebration, the Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday is here, and it's free. Give your kids this epic story of freedom, heroes, and fireworks. Get it at freeusagift.com. That's freeusagift.com.
Poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galina. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
Right now in Ukraine, elderly Jews are trapped in unbearable poverty. If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help rush a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
Eggs. It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now.
Welcome back. A second aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, being sent from Venezuela to the Middle East. The carrier is going to join the USS Abraham Lincoln strike group in the Persian Gulf as we all wait to see, after all these weeks, what Trump is going to do about Iran and the regime that funds more terrorism than any other in the world. An attack could be imminent, or this could just be more pressure. Nobody really knows, but now this is a massive, massive contingent that has been placed in the Persian Gulf right outside of Iran. Here was the president earlier.
Give us the deal that they should have given us the first time. If they give us the right deal, we won't do that. But, you know, historically, they haven't done that. I will say they want to talk, but so far they do a lot of talking and no action.
No, that's Iran, right? All talk, no action, stall, 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 until they get another Democrat in that'll give them more pallets of our cash. Dr. Michael Savage, host of Savage Nation, joins us now. Your thoughts as another aircraft carrier moves toward the Middle East?
Talk softly and carry a big aircraft carrier. 2 battle groups, enormous firepower. Each battle, I was on an aircraft carrier as a guest years ago. It's awesome to watch these young guys fly these planes off these decks in the middle of the night. But that's not the point. Everybody loves the image of the strong American military. Everyone loves it. But do we think about the consequences of launching strikes on Iran? The innocent people who might be killed, number one. I mean, how do you target only the mullahs who are hiding in underground shelters? Then there are the unintended consequences, which I think we touched on last week. I know I sound like, oh, wow, are you getting soft? I'm getting much more realistic, not soft. I think contrary to the goal of toppling the government, an attack by the United States could unite the Iranian population against, behind the regime, against an external enemy. That's what I'm afraid of. And it could strengthen the IRGC. And if the regime were to fall, I don't know how they could accomplish that anyway, are we guaranteed a stable, friendly successor? There's a fragmented coalition in Iran that is not at all united. You've got 5, 6, 7 different disparate groups in Iran that don't really like each other. They're all separate militias, basically, whether it be the Kurds or aspects of the Turkish military in other forms in Iran. I've spoken to people who really know this area well. So, yes, of course we want to see the mullahs go. I don't know that aircraft carriers are going to do it. How many Iranians have been killed protesting when we said, we have your back? I don't know. The estimates are 10 to 30,000 dead people. Yeah. They're executing people in the hospitals, these mullahs. So is it a good thing that he's showing strength? Sure, we all love it. That's what the military is for. It's not just for air shows on July 4th. But is that really our biggest enemy? What about the problems in America right now, Rod? And a lot of people are saying, no more foreign wars, no more foreign entanglement. Is he doing it for America or for Israel? I read all of this online, okay? And we got to be realistic about it. Moreover, Saudi Arabia has said that if we take on Iran and destroy them, they may have to develop a nuclear weapon. So we could have an attack that has unintended consequences. Again, there are other problems here, Rob.
What do you mean? You said the Saudis say that if we take on Iran, that they'll develop a why the Saudis want us to go into Iran?
Not necessarily, because we may threaten Iran to the point where they develop a nuclear weapon without taking them out. And if they do, then Saudi Arabia wants to develop nuclear weapons. That's what I was trying to get across.
I see.
Okay, so you caught me there.
No, you make a good point. It was something about the semantics of it I didn't understand.
Yeah, I jumped to the conclusion without the prelude. I get it. So it was a little too quick. But before we get there, Rob, and I know your time is so short, which is why I love television. I like the pressure.
Don't worry, because Dick Morris just canceled, so you got an extra 2 minutes.
Oh,
so we're going to have a nice long conversation.
I don't have to take another pill. That's terrific. I hope Dick's okay. Okay, I spoke to a very smart investor, a billionaire who trades hundreds of millions of dollars a day in stocks. This guy knows everything about this stuff, and he said to me, 2 things will happen if we attack Iran. The stock market will dive, and oil prices will go through the roof. These are not very good things for the American economy. In fact, Donald Trump's strongest calling card right now is the strong stock market, 50,000, right? He's afraid the stock market's going to take a dump.
I don't buy that. Do you buy
Why?
that? I mean, we just took Maduro out, and everything has been completely fine. It's remained stable in that country, and it's gone up, and everything's been healthy. If you go into Iran, I mean, if they do this surgically,
That's the question
Yeah.
I need to ask you. You know more about this than I do, apparently.
I don't.
What do we mean by surgically? The mullahs are not sitting around in a cafe waiting for a smart bomb to knock them off. We read that they're hiding underground and deep underground. Look, Hamas was in underground shelters in Gaza. Look how long it took to get them out. What are we going to send troops in to root out the mullahs in their tunnels?
I don't know what they're going to do. That's the whole point. It's like, and it's weird because I have so much family, and they ask me, and it's like, nobody knows. There's a small group of people at the White House that know if we're going to do anything at all. But I have to think they were smart enough with Venezuela to know that you had to do it in a way where you kept stability in the country. What they don't want is a refugee crisis and a mess in a foreign land. That's what MAGA voters really hate. But if there's some way to do this surgically where you can remove this cancer of Iran, or at least the regime of Iran is a cancer. If you can remove it and keep stability in that place, I think it could be great for the future and for potentially for the stock market. If you don't have a terror funding cancer in the Middle East any longer, and you can do it in a way where it's stable.
Right. Ideally, you are correct. The question is, what do we mean by surgically? Yeah. Look how long it took Israel and what destruction resulted in Gaza to go into those tunnels and root out Hamas.
Yeah.
Now I would say we'd have to magnify that by a great factor in Iran. I would assume that they're in deep underground bunkers. What are you going to do? Send special forces into every bunker in Iran to root out these mullahs? I know it sounds like
nobody knows. Nobody has any idea what they're going to do. But I do think that top of mind is we're not invested enough in this to screw up, the world and to create instability and to create a crisis. So I think they're very aware of that. We learned that with Maduro. I do have to leave it there because we've gone 7 minutes. I'm completely out of time. But we can finish the conversation.
Iran is not the same as Venezuela.
No.
Iran is a much different country strategically and geopolitically, and it is not the same as Venezuela. I don't think it's going to fall as quickly with surgical strikes. I think they're going to try to repeat it. I'm not so sure it's going to work. I pray to God it does. Let's leave it at that from my point of view.
Let's wait and see what happens first, because they might have an idea we never even thought of.
Borders, language, culture. Borders, language, culture. Thank you.
Good to see you, Dr. Savage. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right. Why we love Bobby Kennedy up next.
I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats.
Why are so many dogs dying before their time? In my experience, great health starts with great food. That's why I created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It contains powerful canine superfoods that directly support your dog's digestion, skin and coat, mobility, and so much more. And it's air dried. That means cooked low and slow, no high heat. We have thousands of 5-star reviews. And for a limited time, get up to 50% off with our special TV offer. Go to badlandsranch.com/TV. That's badlandsranch.com/TV.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell it all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
I am sure you're aware foods contain no more than 10 to 12 minerals. This is because of topsoil mineral depletion. Your body needs many more than 12 minerals to be healthy. How can you get them? I recommend Immuno 150. This incredible nutritional supplement is different. It doesn't contain metallic minerals like most vitamin and mineral supplements. Immuno 150 contains 70 easily digested plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There is nothing like it. The 70 plant minerals are the key to its effectiveness, its popularity, and its high reorder rate. If you want a food supplement that produces outstanding results and really makes a difference, try Immuno 150. Look at the 3 videos on the Immuno 150 website and consider placing an order. Thank you.
Little by little, age-related macular degeneration tries to take away your vision. You're not the type to sit back and do nothing, so now's the time to take action and make a plan with your doctor that includes PreserVision. It contains the clinically proven formula recommended by the NEI to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression. PreserVision is backed by over 20 years of clinical studies, and it's right here in the palm of your hand.
You've spent a lifetime becoming who you are. Don't let AMD take that away.
It's your vision. Take action. Choose PreserVision.
And welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Don Lemon formally arraigned today, pleading not guilty to charges related to storming a Minnesota church with his Antifa buddies and terrorizing families as they prayed while pretending to be a journalist. Outside, a good look at the kinds of people that want to abolish ICE, the kinds of people that support Don Lemon, a cadre of hideous women carrying sex toys. Take a listen.
The process is the punishment with them. And like all of you here in Minnesota, the great people of Minnesota, I will not be intimidated. I will not back down. I will fight these baseless charges, and I will not be silenced. Thank you very much.
Don Lemon thinks he's Martin Luther King Jr. We're going to let him have some fun. Next up, New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani finding out the hard way all his outrageous promises are likely going to go unkept. He's begging the New York State legislature for more money to push his agenda, but the city has a $7 billion budget deficit, which is bad news, as all his nonsense that he used to get young people to vote for him, not going to happen. Mamdani wants a 2% tax increase for New Yorkers making over $1 million. He wants more corporate taxes as well, but the moderate Democrats in Albany say the tax base is already fleeing. We can't raise it anymore. Take a look at the Laffer curve. Mamdani didn't make it to economics school. See on the backside there, as tax rate goes up, the more you tax, the revenue starts to go down because your tax base leaves. There's New York. If we can pull that full screen, probably be easier to see for our audience. There we go. See New York on the downside? There we go. Next up, why we love Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Right. If I don't treat it, which means going to meetings every day, it's just bad for my life.
We're going to have to probably play the beginning of that because it only started in the middle. Can we roll at least the first 10 seconds of that?
This when we came in and I said, I don't care what happens, I'm going to a meeting every day.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not scared of a germ. You know, I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats. I know this disease will kill me.
Right.
Like if I don't treat it, which means going to meetings every day.
There you go, right there. Now we got the soundbite right. It's moments like that that you got to appreciate Kennedy Jr. And yes, he's still the smartest guy that's ever had that job. And finally, the FTC sending a letter to Apple over allegations the tech giant's new curation app has an obvious political bias, addressed to Tim Cook, saying that they systematically boost left-wing sources and suppress right-wing sources, pointing out that it could get them in trouble with the FTC as well. 620 top stories on Apple's news, all of them either left-leaning or centrist, not a single one from the right. A hilarious moment from the president at Fort Bragg. Up next.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
Ready for relief? I just want relief.
I needed relief.
You just want relief. Like you just want it to go away.
You need the Signal Relief Patch.
We all hurt, whether it's our neck, back, knees, or shoulders. Pain keeps you from doing the things that matter most. In a recent study, 85% of people felt relief.
As a surgeon, I put it on, and I can't explain why it works. I can just tell you, it does work.
Some people think this is just in my head, but I know that it works. It's working.
The Signal Relief Patch for me offered up independence.
The Signal Relief Patch for me actually means pain relief.
With a Signal patch, I've been able to sleep, walk, and work.
Relief. That's what the Signal patch gave me.
It was phenomenal. Why aren't more people trying this?
Join the thousands who have experienced relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Get your patch today.
AI can turn your lights on.
Lights on.
And drive your car. And even write your kid's essay. But AI ain't gonna fix your broken water line or pay for the big repair bill. Having a plan from HomeServe offers real solutions. And when a covered system breaks, we'll send a qualified contractor and pay for the repair. There's nothing artificial about the peace of mind you get with a plan from HomeServe. Getting one is quite intelligent.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $4.99 a month.
Call 1-844-752-2141 or visit homeserve.com.
I'm a martial artist, a skydiver, a pilot, and all of them require your feet to work. Get up in the morning, and it felt like I was standing on marbles on my heel. When I went into the Good Feet store, the fitting was personalized. It was all about me. You put in the arch supports and your day becomes better and the sun shines, the unicorns run by, and it's a good life. I'm Randy, and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
You deserve high quality. You really do. At Balance of Nature, we don't cut corners. We could cut corners or extract individual vitamins and minerals rather than source whole foods. But that's not who we are. We don't isolate one specific part and sell it alone. Why? Because phytonutrients are woven into the whole plant. We are real ingredients only, always. Go to balanceofnature.com and subscribe and save today.
Your Florida life is calling, and we have the answer. Valencia in Florida by GL Homes. Premium 55-plus living in 5 prime Florida locations. Gorgeous new homes from the mid-300s to $2.5 million. World-class resort-style living 24/7. Huge clubhouses, on-site dining, pickleball, and more. Effortless, low-maintenance living. Valencia, your Florida life is calling. Experience more at valenciaflorida.com.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, Matt.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
Finally tonight, Trump visiting Fort Bragg, North Carolina, honoring our special forces after the capture of Nicolas Maduro. Now, do you remember Stacey Abrams, who ran for governor of Georgia, I think 3 times now? Trump cracking a joke about the Abrams tank.
All of the equipment you need. We're also purchasing 30 new and modified Abrams tanks. Still the best tank, right? Still? It was named in honor of Stacey Abrams. Only a few very political people would understand that. Congratulations. Thank you very much for a great name, Stacey.
He's going to catch hell for that one. You can count on that. Edie Hill is up next in for Finnerty tonight. The one thing you don't want to be named after, I think, would be a tank.
That's true. But you're right. He's going to catch it for that one.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right.